Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So as promised, I'm going to continue vlogging every week as we navigate this new challenge in our lives. If you missed last week's video, I go into it in great detail. I will link that above for you to watch. But before I get into the update for this week, I just want to say thank you guys so much. Oh my gosh, the comments you left on last week's video were just so lovely, so encouraging, so beautiful. Thank you for sharing your own stories with me about your individual challenges. I find such encouragement to hear, similar stories, how you all went through it, how you came out of it, in many cases, bigger and better than before. So also appreciate, of course, all those prayers. Keep them coming. We will take as many as we can get. All right, so the update. My husband, over the past month and a half since getting laid off, has been nonstop applying for jobs. Now, obviously, because of where we live in the mountains of South Dakota, his job market is pretty darn small. He works for the railroad. It's not like there are 12 railroads from which to choose to work from where we live. He's been applying everywhere, all over the country. When he started doing that, I had a conversation with the Lord and I was like, okay, this could be exciting. Maybe the Smoky Mountains or the Rocky Mountains or maybe the Pacific Northwest or maybe even Alaska, because we love living, in mountainous areas, remote areas, rural areas, kind of off the beaten path. And all those places sound super exciting and amazing. So the one interview he gets is in southern Indiana. And believe me, I have nothing against the Midwest. I am sure that southern Indiana, the rural parts of it, are absolutely beautiful. I'm sure it's a stunning countryside. And of course, it would be a rural area, which we love. It's just going to be an adjustment, and not getting too far ahead because it's just an interview. It's not like we have an offer here. However, last Friday, he had the phone interview with them, actually 2 weeks ago at this point. He had the phone interview with them. It went great. He was very encouraged by the salary range they told him. The schedule would not be the best. So he basically could choose between working 6 weeks on, meaning nonstop on call for 6 weeks, then he'd get 2 full weeks off, or he could work 3 weeks nonstop on call and get 1 week off completely. So obviously, once we kind of digested all of this, we started talking about what to do with our beautiful home. And that's really when I think reality sunk in for both of us. For my husband, it was a particularly hard conversation to have. This was his dream, coming out here to the Black Hills. He has always wanted to live here. When we lived in Pennsylvania for 15 years, he was sending in his application to the railroad here, and it was nothing, nothing, nothing. Then in 2020, all of a sudden, by the grace of God, we get this call. They offer him a job after an interview, and it was dream come true, right? So what he's struggling with is, just kind of questioning, is that all I get out of my dream? 4 years? Are we seriously talking about leaving after, at least him, always talking about coming out here? I had never been out here, but I quickly fell in love with it. So really, living here has become a dream come true for both of us. That conversation got a little, I don't want to say contentious, but there was definitely tension in it, because at first we were definitely coming at it from 2 different angles. To me, because the housing market here has really exploded. I mean, our house honestly has tripled in value since we bought it 4 years ago, which is great. But, to me, I'm thinking, okay, well, this could be our opportunity to literally sell this house, buy a new house with cash, pay off the cars, and we are debt-free, presumably for the rest of our lives. That was the option that was appealing to me. And as I was talking, I could tell like his face was changing a little bit. And it didn't dawn on me until he started saying, like, you know, reminding me that his dream was to come out here. So then we started talking about, okay, what are our options if you get an offer? We're talking about that just because I like to be prepared. I don't want to be in a situation where we get an offer and then we're trying to scramble within like 24 hours to decide what we're going to do. So the options are obviously we sell this house, we both move out to Indiana. Option number 2, we keep the house, but we rent it out to long-term renters with a minimum like 1-year lease. I think we could get a really nice rental income out of this place. And then we'd either rent a home in Indiana, which would be my preference, instead of buying and potentially floating 2 mortgages. The other option is that he goes out there, I stay here, he just gets some dumpy little apartment, I stay in the house, which, you know, again, economically, depending on what they would offer him salary-wise, I'm not sure that's the best option either. Like, I don't know. Plus, I really don't want to be apart from him. And then, of course, the other option is rent this place out for a year. We both go out to Indiana with the mindset of, let's try it for a year. And after a year, let's regroup. You know, something might open up back here or in one of those like sexy mountain areas I was talking about before. You know, and it's like you're trying not to get too far ahead because, again, it's just an in-person interview. We don't have an offer yet, but also trying to be prepared if an offer does come and we have to make a quick decision. Like, it's good to get details, right? Like, it's good to prepare. And there's a fine line between preparing and starting to feel really overwhelmed and anxious and worried and afraid, really, because it's scary. You know, when you initiate a move to a place you want to go to, it's exciting. When God initiates a move to a place that you never even thought about going, it can be terrifying. So for me, I have literally just been like in my Bible every single day, speaking verses over us every single day. Some of my favorites include like Jeremiah 29:11, for I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and never to harm you, to bring you hope in a future. And that's been a comfort to me. My husband doesn't share my faith. He has a lot of anger directed towards God for things that happen, pretty traumatic, hurtful, sad things that happened in his life years ago, and he's never really gotten over that. That's something else you can keep in prayer. So I think I'm able to maintain more peace of mind about this somewhat. Still have my moments, but for me, it's like I'm choosing to just take it step by step, honestly, day by day. I'm not really thinking too far ahead. Again, we're getting like information, but I'm kind of tucking that information away and not dwelling on it, ruminating on it. I'm not running through 15,000 what-if scenarios because I know my Lord and he has an amazing way of just kind of like swooping in and coming up with these amazing solutions to your problem that you never even thought about. And I've seen him do that so many times in my life, in other people's lives, and that's where your faith comes in, and that's where my faith is rooted right now. So I have that comfort while my husband does not. So that's kind of hard to watch. Aside from that, as I mentioned before, things at my own 9-to-5 job have changed dramatically. It used to be super creative and fulfilling. In a nutshell, I did content creation for them. I also did lots of curations for them. So basically just almost shopping online without buying anything, but finding like the best of the best of the best to put together these beautiful curations for themes related to fashion, beauty, home, lifestyle. It was so much fun. That has come to a screeching halt because the company I work for is really, really into AI right now. And I can tell you my day now consists of literally like looking at image after image and basically rating it. training the system to know what's wrong with the ridiculous image it generated so it can regenerate a new one. And it is like mind-numbing work. Again, I'm grateful that I have a job. I'm so thankful I can work from home. I have great flexibility. I love the team I'm on. I love my managers. But our team was like this hyper creative group, and we're all just like, what is happening? Like, oh my gosh, is this our life right now? I've not gotten any responses yet from any job applications I've put in, but some good news. I've got a new sponsorship for my YouTube channel. So I'm going to be collaborating with Merit for future videos, and in exchange they're going to send me a couple products. They're going to send me a replenisher for their Great Skin Glow Serum, which I have used religiously for like 2 years now. I love that product. And then they're also sending me some of their new matte lipsticks to try out, which I think is super exciting. And I'm very grateful to have that collab. So that was like a glimmer of light, like a glimmer of hope, like, yay, something's happening. I also heard from my publisher. If you guys don't know, I had my first nonfiction book published in 2022, but they are sending me a royalty check, which was going to be way more than I thought it was going to be for. It'll be for about $1,800, which is fantastic. And then I also have another check coming in for about $1,100 for a writing assignment I completed about a month ago. So it's like, there's good things happening amongst all this crazy, like, murky chaos. And so I'm trying to focus on that, because I had this conversation with the Lord like last week. And I just said, like, I need something. Like, I need glimmers of hope. I need something creative to do. I just need, like, your amazing winks right now, right? Like, those really special things that God does for you that might not mean anything to anybody else, but to you, it's like, oh my gosh, like, thank you so much. So in addition to all those blessings happening, I also decided to revamp my creative portfolio. So I've been designing in Canva and getting it all ready. And that's just something that's creative for me to do, and I'm finding a lot of fulfillment doing it. Like I said, I'm a hyper creative, so just having something like design wise to do is so fulfilling. So I'm super thankful that God gave me that idea to do as well. Oh, I want to mention this too about my husband. This is something I'm so thankful for. This is one of the many reasons why I love and adore him. Although upon reflection, like in the past, sometimes it's been a bone of contention, but at its core, it's a really good quality he has. And that's the fact that he's an extremely hard worker. I mentioned in last week's video that the job he just got laid off from was kind of like a really bitter pill to swallow at first, because it felt like a slap in the face after watching this man legit work 70, 80 hours a week on salary. So it's not like he was hourly getting overtime or double overtime or time and a half. He was just doing that because he's a hard worker, sacrificing his weekends to go into work, going in sometimes in the middle of the night if need be. When he wasn't supposed to be working, we rescheduled vacations around his schedule. I mean, it was crazy. It was really, really out of balance. But my husband, again, he's a super hard worker. In addition to applying to jobs that are relevant to his career, he's also been applying to any job just to have a job. One of the other blessings that kicked in were unemployment benefits, which, as you know, it's not like you're making a windfall, but I'm grateful for what it is. It's income, and that's why it's there during times like this. So very thankful for it. However, my husband, he still wants to work because he likes to work. So he went into town today to go to the post office for an interview to be a mail carrier. And oh my gosh, like, to see somebody who has I had to gather myself there for a minute. To see somebody who has his brilliant mind, his knowledge, his experience at 50 years old, swallowing his ego and just doing whatever to provide for his family is like, oh my gosh, like this dude is unbelievable. And I'm so grateful for that. I feel what he's feeling right now. And my husband, like, I mean, he's a guy, like, right? He's a man's man. It's not like he pours out his emotions all the time. He'll give you like these little snippets so you can really see into his heart. And he said to me the other day, like, I'm 50 years old. I fully expected at this point in my life to be like in the golden years of my career, you know, kind of almost like setting sail, if you will, like cruising along, getting bigger and better. And he's like, is this seriously my life at 50 years old? Like I'm starting over from scratch. And when he said that, I felt it. And that was hard to take. I was telling my parents the other day that one of the things I've made the decision to do is to be as solid as I can right now for my husband and for me in this situation. What I mean by that is that when I start to wobble and I start to get anxious or overwhelmed, I'm not necessarily sharing that with my husband. And it's not to like, oh, sugarcoat everything and be really Pollyanna about the situation. It's more about me starting to realize that when my husband sees me wobble, it really upsets him. And that's not to say like, oh, he doesn't let me show emotion. I think men sometimes are kind of looking to us as women. They're looking to their wives to really be that source of support. Like that's what they need to see. They need to see you being strong because that encourages them to be strong and be optimistic. And I kind of liken it to, like, let's say you're on an airplane and you hit turbulence. When you look at the stewardess, if she's just kind of like, you know, it is what it is. She acknowledges, yes, we've hit turbulence, but it's fine. We'll get through it. And she just stays steady and calm. That helps you stay steady and calm, right? If you hit turbulence and you look at your stewardess and she's flipping out, like that is not good, not comforting at all. So I'm trying to take that mentality. And I said to my parents, you guys can be like my crash net, like when I start to have my Peter moments, you know, when I feel like I've got my eye on the Lord and I'm feeling good about things. And oh my gosh, like I just get overwhelmed and I start to sink. Like I'm going to call you guys talk me off of the ledge. I do not want my husband to have the added stress and discomfort and discouragement of seeing me lose it. Because what I also feel is really important right now is to show him what faith looks like, right? It's kind of hard to run around like saying you're a Christian and professing your faith, and then when things get bad, you lose your faith, right? Like these are the times where you need to have faith and you need to be walking the walk and talking the talk. And obviously, you know, I go to God all the time. I'm very open and honest with him about how I'm feeling, and I know I can do that. And so I just want to be like a source of strength and, like I said, encouragement for my husband right now, because by me doing that, it also keeps me encouraged. Like there's nothing that feels good about melting down, although that's totally natural and there's nothing wrong with it. But for me, I've just noticed like it just kind of releases like all this negative stuff, right? That might not never happen, probably won't. Worst case scenario, probably won't be as bad as we thought it would. Are things changing? Potentially. Could it get rough? Sure. Is this going to be an easy time? It might not be. But I don't have to focus on that. I can decide, right, despite our circumstances being chaotic, I don't have to be chaotic in here or up here or outwardly. So I'm really, really like making the decision to stay as steady as I can, to surround myself with wise people, to ask for prayer, to talk to the Lord, to stay in my Bible, to stand firm on all of those promises. You know, another one of my favorites being Titus 1:2, God does not break his promises. and his promises for me are yes and amen. And what I'm realizing is life might not look how I want it to look, right? Like sometimes God just doesn't get the memo about how you think your life should go down or how this change should go down. And that's what trusting in God is all about, right? Just holding on to the belief that he knows best. He knows what he's doing. He's lining everything up perfectly for this really beautiful plan for us that might not be, void of any trouble or difficulty or challenges, but knowing that as we go through those, he's guiding us through them. So I mentioned before that my husband doesn't have the faith that I do in the Lord. And so when you pray for us, pray that God uses this situation to really speak to my husband. There are tougher nuts that God has cracked in terms of unbelievers. But my husband really just needs to, and I've told him this, he just needs to get into the ring with God. He needs to get into the boxing ring, put on the gloves, duke it out, let it all out. Let your anger out, let your frustration out, let all that pain out. God knows anyway. He knows what's in your heart. And that to me is like the first step towards healing, the first step towards moving forward in a relationship with God instead of holding on to this anger and the disappointment, which based on what he's gone through, I get it. It's justified, but it's not doing anybody any good for him to hold on to that, right? So this video, I'm quite sure, is quite lengthy. If you are still here hanging in, thank you so much. Again, appreciate more prayers. We will be traveling next week, so I am going to vlog that, and we will see. His interview is on Tuesday, March 19th, right around noon. Keep it in prayer. Again, just asking for wisdom, guidance, peace, and that this will be something that is beneficial ultimately in more ways than one for our family, for my husband, for me, for our relationship, for everything, just to watch God work this out as only God can in the beautiful way that he has planned. But in any event, thank you guys so much for spending your time with me today. I hope you're having a good one, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.